And it is on our end, like our PowerPoint is up, and we're looking good. Okay, but just tell me, just text me if anything goes weird, okay? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah. See you, Amanda. Bye.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us a couple minutes early. I want to thank you for that and let you know we will begin promptly at 2 o'clock. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an amazing day here in Louisville, Kentucky, at Operation Parent, and I am so excited that each of you are here to learn with us today. Hello, I am Michelle Massey, and I'm your host from Operation Parent. I work on the program development and sales teams with our organization. However, my most important job is being the mother of two very strong middle school preteens that are 16 months apart. My cool job today is to introduce you to Heather Perrino, who is not only a longtime higher ed colleague of mine, but also a very, very good friend and a VIP in health promotion and prevention movement in the state as well as across the country. As your host today, let me talk through a couple of the technical features of the GoToWebinar program that we're using. First, on your webinar control panel, you'll see an orange tab with an arrow. This tab allows you to open and minimize the control panel. If you wish to view your screen without the control panel, just click on that orange tab and minimize it. For now, though, please click on the orange arrow to open your control panel and view all of our features. All of our attendees will be muted today during the presentation. We would, however, love to hear from you via the questions section. About halfway down the control panel, you will see the questions section. You'll send both questions and comments here. There are three panels. The top panel shows any questions that you've already posted. Below that is another light blue panel where you can type your questions and then select Send Privately. Let's go ahead and try that feature now. If you could send me your name and where you're joining us from, that would be great. Now make sure you send the message to staff when you're done typing. Okay, awesome. We've got Michelle from Nebraska, Wayne from Louisville, Maria from Ohio, Leslie from Louisville, Jamie, Sue from Toledo, awesome, attendee from Massachusetts, Washington State, Scott from North Carolina, Terry from Kentucky. Okay, great. Those are still coming in and it looks like it's working perfectly, so thank you for your responses there. We've provided three handouts for you today: a PDF of today's PowerPoint, a resource sheet which will take you through the risk and protective factors, TED Talks that are referenced today, YouTube videos that Heather has provided and will talk us through, as well as some of the books that Heather's going to talk about. In addition, you'll have an article from the Courier Journal that Heather submitted in reference to the GOAT movie and fraternity hazing. So you can see a little bit of the work that she's doing at the collegiate level. Now, I will ask if you want to download those handouts, and I hope that you will. You'll do that today while we're live in the presentation. That's the only opportunity that you will have to download the references. We are going to honor your time and finish up right at the 30-minute mark, but if we have additional questions coming in at that point, we will stay on the line and continue to answer those questions. Each of you will receive a recording of our webinar today, and you'll be able to catch anything that you might have missed should you have to get off right at the end of our presentation. So again, I am very excited to be here with Heather Perino, our facilitator today, who will go into detail with you on how supportive adults can build resilience and protective factors in children that can help them power through the tough spots and risk factors that pop up throughout their life. Thank you so much, and here's Heather.
Thank you so much, Michelle. All right, looks like we're moving. So my name's Heather Perrino, and I have worked at University of Louisville with our BRIC Coalition for about 8 years. And also, my favorite job is raising 2 girls. I have a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old. And I also have thousands at this point of college students that I've adopted as my own children and work at the university over this time. In fact, I'm starting to see some of them start families of their own and start to have their own children. So it's been really rewarding to watch them as they move on way beyond their college years. So today we're going to focus on preteens and teens and elementary school age students, and also just what we can do as far as adults in modeling resilience and how we can be more supportive for all of our young people. But first, I want to tell you just a little bit about BRIC Coalition and the work that we do here. Our mission is to decrease high-risk drinking and increase resilience. And so we work with multiple partners across the state of Kentucky, and we use something that we call a public health model or an ecological model approach. And so what that essentially means, if you're not familiar with that background or that language, is that we have strategies that target individuals, organizations, and states and different national levels. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about our outcomes. These are some of the outcomes that you'll find if you want to look us up, and I'll give you the information for that on our resources sheet later to connect with us through social media and other ways. But these are some of the different strategies that we've come up with together to address decreasing high-risk drinking, but also increasing resilience. And so that's led to us passing state laws, putting different prevention efforts in place for all of our incoming students. And if you're not from Louisville, we have about 27,000 students on our campus. So we're a fairly decent-sized campus. So we have to be very strategic and intentional about our work and how we reach all these different students. So today, we're going to continue to use that public health model approach, and we're going to focus on strategies that you can use as parents and supportive adults and with your families. So before we start, I really want to define resilience to be sure that we're all on the same page. The way that BRIC Coalition defines resilience is the ability to bounce back and learn from life experiences and be better prepared for the future. And so I'll share with you one of my favorite stories of resilience. It's about a little boy named Maxwell. He's 8 years old, and he's on my daughter's cross-country team. And one of my favorite stories about Maxwell is we started off a cross-country meet, and he took off, and he fell at the very beginning of the start line. And then he lost a shoe, and he kept going. And as Maxwell finished the race, he came running up to me. He had won his first medal, and by the end of the race, this boy had no shoes on. And he was so excited. He said, "Miss Perino, I just won my first medal." And I said, "Maxwell, I am so proud of you, but I'm not just proud of you because you won a medal. I'm proud of you because you're so resilient." I said, "You know, you just won a medal with no shoes. Think about what you could do if you had 2 shoes on." And so that essentially is what we're trying to do as parents and supportive adults, is that we know our kids can finish this race. We know they can finish with no shoes on, but it's not the preferable method. We want them to finish the race with both shoes on and have all of the tools that they need for life. So resilience is that tool. So why teach resilience to young people? Well, first of all, the great news is this is a learned skill. You know, we all come from different backgrounds and experiences, and this is something that we can actually teach. This is a solution. And we all have risk factors that are ever changing. We're going to get into that in a moment. But we want to be focused on the protective factors and ways to learn and model and promote these at home and at school, because every child deserves an excited adult to show up every single day and work with them. So these are not just things that we've come up with. These are things that have been around for a long time and are endorsed by many different credible organizations, including SAMHSA. And so what they say is they say that we all have risk factors and we all have protective factors. So risk factors are those things like mental health issues, low self-esteem, maybe having a family that's really overly supportive or a family that's not supportive at all. And you all can read through these. I'm not going to say every single one, and this doesn't list every single one. But the thing that I want you to recognize is that sometimes as parents and as educators and just supportive adults in general that are working with these different community issues, because they are community issues and they're not just kid issues, they're issues that impact all areas of our community. But sometimes we stay so focused on the risk factor, on the issue. And so what I want to turn your attention to today is the solutions. And how can we use protective factors to counteract these risk factors? And how can we model them? And how can we teach them in better ways? So again, just wanted to highlight, this is our definition when we say resilience. And you'll see several different definitions out there around resilience. So we can go to the protective factors. Thank you. So protective factors. If you are talking about the ability to adapt, one thing that you will see, whether you are talking about an elementary school age child, even some pre-K children now that I'm seeing this in, all the way up to college. And one that I would talk about a lot would be around technology. So protective factors are things that you use to cope with risk factors. So you can have all the risk factors that we saw in that prior slide, but you can use these to counteract them. So one example I would give you of that is that if you have a child that is constantly using a protective factor such as technology, and they are used to seeing their parents come home or different people that work around them that are just constantly scrolling through their phone, and that's like their downtime. That's how they deal with stress. And, you know, there's times that we all do that. I'm not saying that you can never do that. But what I am saying is if that becomes your main strategy, your main protective factor, your main coping mechanism, then how's that going to work when you go to school or you go to different places and you're not allowed to have that device? So that's why sometimes we see students or we see young people that are used to scrolling through or using that when they have stress or they have different traumas in their life, and then they go to school and they're not allowed to have that. So it's very important that we teach other ways to cope and problem solve. Other examples of this are I statements and active listening, and we teach this with our students at the university a lot. And it's really interesting because I can see where some students are learning this at younger ages, and some of them, they come to the university and they don't quite have these skills yet. And so we really have to teach them how to communicate and how to have those social connections with their friends and how to speak up for our friends when bullying's involved or other situations that they come across. And I think it's so important. A lot of parents will say, you know, especially right before they come to college, they'll say, Heather, you know, what can I do to prepare my student? It's almost like they feel like they're running out of time. And they say, what do I need to teach my child right before they come to college? And it's like, you know, you've probably done some really great things, and we still need you. Like at college, it doesn't end. And one of the most powerful things that you can do, whether you're working with your own children or other people's children, is just to be an active listener. And so that means when they are calling to tell you about things that they're celebrating, or they're calling to tell you about things that are stressful to them that you may not think are very stressful, it's just listening to them and being in that moment with them and empathizing with them. It's such a protective factor as a supportive adult. Also modeling the different things that we do, right? Like good health. A lot of people, when we say good health, they don't think about things like naps. And so it is so great to model that around the young people that we work with, that it's okay to take a nap. It's okay to have some downtime, to have weekends where we don't do anything. That's okay. And you're going to need that as you go throughout life, that sometimes your body just needs to take a break and reset. Involvement in healthy day-to-day physical activities. As a mom, it's really hard, and I suffer with mom guilt, as I'm sure a lot of parents do. And so, I want to go out and I want to have that physical activity, but as a working mom, I don't want to be away from my children. And so we'll do something at our house like Miss Jamie's Yoga, where we do different movements together, and it's storytelling throughout the yoga. And I've got this resource on our site as well. So it flies through while we're doing it. And I'm actually not a person who actually even enjoys yoga. It's just something that I know I need to do. And then it helps my body deal with stress, and it helps me stretch, and it helps me spend time with my children. So that's a really great resource. And then also spirituality and purpose. I think that everyone will find those protective factors. And again, this doesn't list every single one, but you'll find the protective factor that is like your go-to protective factor. And so for me, that is mine. And so every morning when I get up, my husband and I, we read our Bibles together, and we're modeling that with our kids, and we pray. And, we have those family goals too, like what's important, what is the core value of our family? And one of ours is, to make sure that we're in situations that are healthy and safe, and that we're here to serve others. And, those are valuable to us because we did have so many risk factors growing up that we didn't always have healthy or safe situations. So I want to put these side by side just so you can kind of look at how these things can counteract the risk factors. And so am I saying that if you start doing all of these different protective factors and putting these things in place for yourself and your family, that your life's just going to be perfect and great? Absolutely not. Most days, folks, I don't have it together either. So please don't hear that through the talk that I'm giving today, that, oh, this lady must just have it all together doing yoga and, helping out with different groups of students. No, I don't have it all together. But what I will say is that my students and our kids can bounce back and learn from their experiences a lot quicker and continue to move forward. It means these risk factors are still going to be there. Sometimes you'll have more than others. They're constantly floating around. But the fact of the matter is you will be more resilient, and you will be able to bounce back quicker. So we do want this to be very interactive today. And so what we want you to do is think about what protective factors do you implement as a resilient parent. And so one thing I would encourage you to do, if you don't do this already, is be very aware of the language that you're using around your kids. So sometimes we say things without even thinking. I do this all the time, and I put my big foot in my mouth. And so I might say something like, I am so stressed out that I need a fill in the blank with something negative. And I hear people do this all the time, especially on social media. I'm so stressed out I need a drink. I'm so stressed out I need this. And so I would encourage you to fill in that blank with a protective factor. I'm so stressed out I need a nap. I'm so stressed out I can't wait to talk to Michelle. I am so stressed out I can't wait to have dinner with my family. I can't wait to go on a run. You can even take stressed out of that, right? So think about what protective factors do you implement as a resilient parent or as a resilient adult. And if you'd share those with us, that would be great, so I can see what are we doing really well. So it looks like physical activity is a big one. It's a good one. Yep, long walk. Going to the park, running it out until you can't run any longer. Speaking with someone that you trust. Good night's sleep. Amen. So when you think about your own children and you think about the children that you work with, what protective factors do you think that children implement the best? Asking them how their day was. I love that active listening. It's a great one. Healthy diet, yes. Yes, time out for ourselves. It's so important to have self-care. Go to the park. eating healthy, trying new things, paint class, time with friends. Great, thank you all. So I said that, we're going to talk about not just protective factors for ourselves, but also protective factors for a thriving family. And so, involvement in helping others is a great way to put a protective factor in place. And they're never too young. I have a 4-year-old, and I think that when she was about 2, we started doing the Salvation Army bell campaign, and she would just stand there and ring the bell and understand how to help others. They can help you get things out of the laundry. They can help you fold towels or roll towels. They can help with clearing their plate off the table. And these are life skills. These are things that they need later on in life, because going back to some of these parents that want to train their students on how to do laundry or how to make lunches when they get right before they get into college, we want them doing these throughout their life so they know how to feed themselves. They know how to take care of themselves, that they are self-sufficient. They are more resilient. They're not going to get stressed out over those things. Good nutrition, open communication through family mealtime. You will find out so much, and there's so many different pieces of literature out there that will show you that you can really have a huge impact on those risk factors if you will just simply set aside a time to eat dinner together and turn off the electronics and have that quiet time together as a family. And that doesn't always necessarily mean that you're going to cook the food. Sometimes it means you have to go out and get it, or you have to have it sent in, whatever it is, because we're all trying to balance, and we never have it all together. Seeking out caring and supportive adults to extend your tribe. And what I would add on to that, especially if you have preteens and teens, is, do they have a supportive social network? Do you feel like some of their friends' values are the same as what your core family values are? If they're not, then it's time to start extending their tribe as well, because, don't think of it as raising children. Think of it as preparing them for life. And so if you're doing that and you're training them to be on their own later, and you're preparing them for the rest of their life, then you really need to prepare them for different situations where they are around healthy individuals. And so, as parents, you still have some control on some of the different groups that they can get involved with. And so really encouraging them to seek out those different interest groups that include some of those different protective factors, whether it's music or art or sports. Policies that promote justice and inclusion in your community. Look around. There's a lot of different places where we need parents to speak up more and be more of an advocate. There's one national chain store, and I won't mention it because I think it's important for people always to learn things on their own and form their own opinions. But there is one national chain store, and I've been noticing as I go to national conferences and I'm out in various states, that this particular chain is really marketing to underage children, specifically in the line that sells tobacco products. And so there's an issue where they have different rolling papers that are intended for tobacco, but it also has different things on it that says unicorn drinking team. So they're marketing to underage kids to drink. And, my 4-year-old sees this with a unicorn and a rainbow on it. It's like, hey, mommy, what is this? And they have, different tools around paraphernalia, around tobacco or other drugs, where, it has bloodshot eyes. They have lighters that they're selling that are marketed towards children. There's not very many adults that really want unicorns and rainbows on these things. There are some, but I would say the market is very, very slim. And also the fact that they're putting these on shelves that are on the very bottom shelf when you go through the line, right next to the Hot Wheels and the little princess dolls and the other things that you see. So be aware, and when you see that, please speak up and say something, because it's going to take more and more parents and supportive adults that care to shift that. And so what we also see is that because they're marketing that specific population, because most people that are in that line are either in that line, like myself, trying to get through it because it's shorter than the others, or they're in that line because they're purchasing those tobacco products. And so you're repeating the cycle over and over again with alcohol and other substances. So just be aware of what you're seeing around you and speak up when you see it. Spirituality and purpose. What is your family mission? I spoke a little bit about mine, and so I'll give you another example around health and safety. And so, because I think it's so important for my kids to be healthy and safe, one thing that we started doing with our girls at a very young age is teaching them their phone number and their address. And, you know, my daughter that's in second grade now, her teacher did a quiz this year with 25 students, and they have an amazing school, amazing classroom. I think parents that have very good intentions, but only 4 kids out of the 25 could tell you their phone number and address. So that's really important. I know that a lot of kids know how to get on their parents' phones to, you know, reach different apps and games, or maybe even get to the phone pad to call 911. But once they call, do they know the address? Do they know their parents' phone number? Do they know their parents' first name besides mom and their last name? So making sure that your kids really are aware of that, it's really key. And then involvement in healthy day-to-day physical activities. What do you do together as a family? You know, we've really built our tribe too. This is part of physical and building our tribe through cross country. There's over 100 parents and families that are involved on this cross country team, and these kids that run together. And we also have a large number of kids that are special needs at our school. And so it's taught a lot around diversity and how we all cheer each other on until the very end, regardless if it takes some of us longer or shorter than others. And so it's really built community and built a lot more protective factors around that group. So, you know, exercising together with them at those different practices. So I want you to think, what protective factors do you want to increase for yourself, your family? And so if you don't have children that are around these different age groups, also, what do you want to increase for the group of kids that you're working with or that you're supporting? Looks like building more relationships with the parents. They are absolutely very key in there. More physical exercise, absolutely. Innocence, absolutely. So protecting that, letting them know that they are loved, meeting them where they are. So good. So what I would encourage you to do too is to write yourself a note or a Post-it that this is something that you want to increase for yourself and your family or that group of kids that you're working with. And then just put it on your computer screen or put it somewhere in your car so that you see it. And, you know, just remind yourself, like, what have I done today or what have I done this week to help increase that protective factor? Because it just takes time to make something a habit, you know. These are some of our practical resources we want to share with you. A TED Talk with Angela Duckworth on grit. She has researched this for years and has a lot around grit and resilience and has even created her own nonprofit. She also has a grit scale, which is really interesting because we're actually not measuring grit in a lot of schools right now. And so we've seen that this does make a difference, and I really encourage you to watch her TED Talk. The TED scores aren't what we should be measuring. They were measuring the wrong thing. And you'll see a lot around Gallup and their different international studies around that as well. TED Talk, Brene Brown on empathy. It's wonderful if you haven't seen it. Even to share with some of the groups of students you may work with. It's a cartoon with a fox and a bear, and it talks about how empathy is feeling what somebody else feels and how to get in that sacred space with them and how we take care of each other. Miss Jamie's Yoga, again, they have all different storylines. There's everything from Star Wars to Elsa. And a little secret, I actually turn it on in my office for 15 minutes sometimes when I don't really feel like stretching, but it goes really quick. Parent Cafe model, this is based off of the World Cafes. Again, it's an evidence-based program, and I just added on there, I'm not getting any kind of royalties or anything around any of these tools. These are just things that I've used as a mom, as a person working on a campus. And the Parent Cafe model I've used at conferences, I've used it with Adults, I've used it, I've even adapted it to use with student groups, and it's worked really well, especially around sororities and fraternities. They almost act parent-like to some of their little brothers or little sisters in their organizations. And so giving them ways to talk about how to build resilience and keep each other safe and how to do self-care. And it's one of those cheaper things too that you can go online, and if you don't have a lot of budget, which a lot of us don't, it's only $25, so it's an easy donation to the program that you're working with, because I know a lot of us do that where we donate out of our own pockets. So I really like that model, and it has a lot of great tools to use with it. Some different cards you can use. You can use it at PTA meetings. If you had like a subgroup that met afterwards, parents that just care. And then, of course, our website, our Facebook is probably the best tool for most people that I'm seeing on this call, because we do post different resources, just like the ones you just saw on that page, just to stay in the loop with some of the current research that's going on, alongside with a lot of the work that we do on our college campus here in Kentucky. So I'll turn it back over to Michelle, but thank you all so much for sharing your time with us today.
Outstanding. Heather, thank you so much for your time and talent and what you've shared with us today. If we could, if you have a question, now's a great time to send it to us so we can get it answered here in the next couple of minutes. I want to invite each of you to join us again for our next webinar on March the 21st at 2 o'clock. We have Dr. Zach Zieneman presenting on conflict resolution. So we know another way to help kids power through tough things in life is to be able to move through a little or a big conflict with success. So we've got a great program lined up and hope that you will mark it on your calendar and join us again. Encourage your friends to join us as well if they can't be with us live. Just like you, they would get the recording the next day and be able to listen to it in their jammies at midnight if they need to. So please, please, please help us spread the word about these webinars and continue to share your time with us as well. Easy ways to stay connected and follow what Operation Parent is charging forward and doing. Like us on Facebook, we have a very active Facebook page. Sign up for our e-newsletter. We've got really great material coming out monthly there on our e-newsletter. And also think about purchasing a parent handbook. And I'm asking you to think about not only your children, but think about your full tribe. Think about your friends' friends. Think about grandkids. Think about children of all ages. We have an elementary edition, which is newer to our lineup, and it would be a great way to give as a gift to someone who has elementary age children. And then our middle and high school handbooks as well. They come in Christian or Spanish editions, and just really think about that as an investment for your family to stay ahead of the culture. Here's a snapshot of our table of contents. And so we are very passionate about keeping parents ahead of the game in terms of what teens are doing experimenting. So alcohol, marijuana, nicotine, drugs, there is up-to-date, excellent information for your family, your tribe, your cousins, your friends of friends. You want folks to have this information at their fingertips. We've presented to over 13,000 parents and guardians. We've also, as counselors as well, we spend a lot of time in the school system. We've reached over 5,000 students. Those numbers are growing every day. Mary Beth is on the road constantly, and if you would like for her to do a presentation at your school or organization, please reach out to us and let us know. Here's how you can reach us, operationparent.org. You can order those handbooks online, or you can also give us a call for more information about the handbooks. All righty, excellent. We're going to check right now and see if we've got some questions in the queue. Or if you haven't had a chance to send a question and you'd like to do that, now's the perfect time. Okay. We are not seeing any questions at this point, so we are going to conclude the presentation. And again, thank you so much for being with us today.
There was.
Oh, okay. If you're still with us, we actually do have a question. We've got some kudos for Heather. Good job.
What age should your child start doing their own laundry? I don't know that there's a magic number for that, but I will say that they can help with the process. Like I said, I have a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old, and my 4-year-old does get the laundry out of the dryer, which she quite enjoys because it kind of makes it a big mess. And she does towels with me, which means that I fold them and then she rolls them up the rest of the way. And my 8-year-old helps me with getting the clothes out as well, or putting the clothes in. We get a little stool out, and they can climb up there and help me put things in. And then she has to put hers away after I fold them or I put them on hangers for them. But I think I would guess like middle school or high school. Michelle, do you have any advice on that for your girls?
Laundry?
Yeah.
We started when they were little bitty, too, helping to either carry it up the steps or just move it from one place to the other. Now they help me sort it. So if I have a huge pile of laundry on my couch, which like many of you, I always do clean laundry, their job is to help me sort it out into who's whose, and then they take their own laundry to their rooms and fold it, which is a big help to mommy now that they're a little bigger and they can do that.
Do you have trouble getting your parents to come out to your presentations? I think, Michelle, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah.
I work more with students in what I do, but I don't have a problem with getting community leaders or students out to our presentation. In fact, they're really hungry for it. I get more calls and contacts from students on other campuses than I do adults, because sadly there's not very many prevention specialists out there where their job is dedicated to solely this kind of work on their campus. There's not a lot of funding out there. You have to get external funding to do the work.
Awesome. Well, what we were finding is, yes, it is difficult for parents to get to evening presentations when they've got middle schoolers and high schoolers that are practicing. They've got to also transport them to practices and to after-school activities. But more importantly, the reason we've gone the webinar route is so that we can extend our reach. As you've seen today, we've got folks with us from all over the country, and we work with drug-free coalitions all over the country. And so we wanted to be able to have just a broader reach. And so this has been really great for families because they can watch it when they have time, listen when they have time. And so it's growing. Every time we do a webinar, we have more attendees, so we feel good that we're going in the right direction.
So we have another question here. It says, are you finding college students utilize resources as they are on their own, as they run into crisis, or do they try to handle it themselves? So we started something recently that's a much more proactive approach that you can go online and look at. It's called Voice of Reason, for this very purpose, because we had a mix of different students coming to our office. And again, we utilize a public health model. So we're trying to reach every student intentionally, because just because they're a student that doesn't drink or is not in crisis doesn't mean that they're not impacted by other students that are. So for example, we might have a family that has never had any alcohol around them in their whole entire life, and then they come to college and they have a roommate that has different situations around them, and then all of a sudden they have to deal with that. So we want to make sure that every single student understands, like, what are the signs and symptoms of alcohol poisoning? How do you prevent it before it happens? What are different resources for treatment and recovery around us, not just on campus? And so we did a needs assessment. We worked with Pacific Institute for Research and Evaluation. We worked with students. We worked with law enforcement, different departments around the university. And we came up with something called the Voice of Reason that the students named. And essentially what it means is that regardless of what happens when I'm out, regardless if my friend drinks or doesn't drink, I always have that person that's a voice of reason that helps me through the situation. And so we came up with a 5-session format of 1 hour. And where we meet, we started meeting in a classroom and we outgrew it. And we also wanted to meet in the physical spaces of where the students actually hang out. So now we actually meet in fraternity and sorority basements and in their suites. And we talk about what really happens. And we teach them effective communication, how to prevent things before they happen, good, just basic alcohol prevention knowledge. And we talk about strategies that work with their friends. And then they go out and they have conversations that are authentic and genuine. And we come back and we talk about what strategies worked and what strategies didn't work. So we do a lot of other strategies, but that's probably one of my favorites. Let's see what else.
All right. Someone asked us if we have branched into student webinars at Operation Parent. We have not done a student webinar yet. Our mission is to get this education into the hands of parents. However, we are looking to do videos, educational videos, and we're just now starting to work on those. So I'm sure those are things that students could watch with their parents, even just to get conversations in the household going, the conversations that we want to be having, and making sure that they understand our platform on the tough issues, alcohol, drugs, across the board, nicotine. So we are branching into the video arena. It's not that we're opposed to doing student webinars, but we have plenty of parent content that we're working on at this point in time.
It looks like they're looking for more and more resources to around NACM and different pieces around the Christian ministry piece. So it looks like you guys are already in the works with different talks around that. So thank you so much for sharing that too.
Very good. That does, at this point, conclude our questions. And once again, we thank you for your time.